stories rise whispering, the echoes from the lone.
Welcome back, wayward souls. I ask you, as always, to light your lanterns, steady your breath, and let the dark press close enough that you can feel its weight settle against your ribs. Today we descend into the grave soil of Ireland, where betrayal does not simply wound but transforms, where hunger is not a curse but a consequence, and where the dead rise, not because they were wronged by spirits or demons, but because they were wronged by the living. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and keep your lanterns lit, so other wayward souls may find their way through the loam in the dark. Today's descent is into the legend of the Dearg Due, the Red Woman, the Revenant Bride, the hunger that learned to walk, the thing that rises when the earth fails to contain the violence. The land around Waterford carries a heaviness that feels older than stones, a damp sorrow that clings to hedgerows, a kind of atmospheric bruise that deepens at dusk, and the wind that crosses those fields seems to remember things, old things, buried things, dragging those memories across the grass like a wounded animal searching for a place to lay down. The soil is rich and dark, the kind that grows good crops and bad stories. And the people who live there know that the earth is not always content to hold what is placed inside it, especially when what is placed inside it died with its last breath clenched around a wish for vengeance. The village learned to fear its own dead. In the shadow of an ancient ring fort, half collapsed and half devoured by bramble, lies the village of Ballinagros, a place so forgotten that even locals in nearby towns speak of it as though it were rumour rather than a settlement. The cottages are scattered like loose teeth, the lanes are narrow and uneven, and the air carries the faint metallic tang of old sorrow, the kind that tastes like blood left too long in the mouth. And it is here, beneath a twisted hawthorn tree, whose branches rattle like bones in the wind, that the grave lies. The grave that never settles, the grave that seems to breathe on cold nights, rising and falling as though something beneath it dreams of waking and dreams of feeding. The villagers do not linger near it, not in daylight, not in summer, not even when the cattle wander too close and must be coaxed back with shaking hands and whispered prayers, because they know, in the marrow-deep way that rural people know things, that the grave belongs to the Dearg Due, the Red Woman, the betrayed bride, the revenant who rises when her hunger outweighs the weight of the earth. And her hunger has never once diminished. Her name in life was Sheila, and the stories say she was beautiful in the way that draws misfortune, beautiful in the way that makes men covet and women whisper, beautiful in the way that becomes a curse disguised as a blessing. Her father, a man of brittle pride and empty pockets, saw her beauty not as a gift but as a currency. And he traded her future for coin, binding her to a wealthy landowner whose cruelty was spoken of in hushed tones but never confronted. Because wealth in those days was a shield that deflected all accusations. The wedding took place in early autumn, when the air smelled of apples and dying leaves, and Sheila walked to the altar with her hands trembling inside her sleeves, her eyes fixed on the horizon as though she could outrun the vows waiting for her. The villagers remembered her silence, the way she seemed to almost shrink inside her own body. And they remembered the groom's smile, thin and triumphant, a smile that promised ownership rather than partnership, a smile that looked like a blade disguised as affection. What happened after the wedding was never spoken aloud, but the bruises deepened, the light in her eyes dimmed, and her voice became a rare and fragile thing. She moved through the house like a ghost even before she died, her footsteps soft, her breath shallow, her presence fading day by day, until one winter she simply stopped speaking altogether, retreating into a quiet so profound it felt like a prelude to death, or something far worse. Death came soon after, sudden, suspicious, and convenient. The husband insisted she had been ill, and no one dared challenge him. Not even when her body was lowered into the earth beneath the hawthorn tree. The villagers watched the burial with a kind of helpless dread, knowing, though, they could not say how something was wrong. But even the earth itself seemed reluctant to accept her. The air around the grave felt charged, unsettled, as though the soil understood what it was being asked to hold was not finished. And the waiting did not last long, because betrayal is a powerful alchemy, and grief can ferment into something monstrous. And the soil around her grave began to shift in ways that made the villagers whisper prayers, clutching rosaries with white-knuckled desperation. On the first night she rose, the moon was thin, and the wind carried a strange sweetness, like overripe fruit. And the dogs howled until their voices cracked, until their bodies trembled with a terror they could not outrun. And the husband was found the next morning with his throat torn open, his face frozen in a rictus of terror, his body drained of blood so thoroughly that even the earth beneath him seemed thirsty. His ribs were cracked open as though pried apart by hands that had forgotten softness, and his heart, or what was remaining of it, lay several feet away, shriveled and grey, as though sucked dry, as though she had tried to drink not just his blood, but the memory of every cruelty he had inflicted. The villagers buried him quickly without ceremony, without mourning, because they knew what had happened, and they knew it was only the beginning. And they knew that what had risen was not a ghost, but a hunger wearing the shape of a woman. And the villagers tried everything: prayers, Charms, salt circles, whispered bargains. But nothing held her, because her hunger was not demonic but human, born of betrayal so deep it had hollowed her out and filled her with a thirst that could not be quenched. They tried burying her deeper, but the soil spat her out like a body rejecting poison. They tried placing stones over her grave, but the stones cracked and shattered as though something beneath them pushed upward with a strength born of rage. They tried binding her with iron, but the iron rusted overnight, crumbling into flakes. They even tried the old methods, the ones whispered about in stories of Awatok, the dwarf king revenant who demanded blood from his subjects, driving stakes through her chest, burying her face down, placing thorn branches over her body, but nothing held her, because her hunger was not the hunger of a monster, but the hunger of a woman wronged so profoundly that death itself could not contain her. And every attempt to bind her only taught her how to rise faster, stronger, colder. Centuries passed, and the village, its houses collapsing into moss-covered ruins, its fields reclaimed by wild growth, but the grave remained. The hawthorn tree still standing, its branches twisted like arthritic fingers, its roots sunk deep into soil that pulsed faintly on cold nights. Travellers occasionally stumbled upon the place, drawn by either curiosity or misfortune, and some never left. Their bodies found days later with the same pallor, the same emptiness, the same expression of terror carved into their faces. An expression that suggested they had seen something beautiful just before it killed them. But the story does not end in the past. It never does with revenants. Because hunger does not die, and betrayal does not fade, and the Dearg Due rises still, her footsteps soft, her breath cold, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She walks the fields, the lanes, the abandoned cottages, searching for warmth, for blood, for the life she was denied. And if you ever find yourself near Waterford on a moonless night, and you hear the soft rustle of leaves behind you, and you feel the air grow heavy with sorrow, do not turn around. Do not speak. Do not breathe too loudly, because she is drawn to sound, to fear, to the quickening pulse beneath your skin. And if you see her, pale, beautiful, terrible, then it is already too late for you. She does not forgive. She does not forget. She only hungers. And though the land around Waterford hasn't healed, it only pretends. The fields grow green again, the hedgerows thicken, the cottages are crumbling into a picturesque ruin. But beneath the surface, the soil still breathes, still remembers, still pulses faintly on nights when the moon is thin. And the hawthorn tree still stands, though its bark has blackened and its roots have split the earth open like a wound that refuses to close. Beneath it, her grave still shifts, not constantly, but with the slow, patient rhythm of something that dreams of waking. Those who remain do not speak of it. They have learned silence, the way others learn prayer. But silence won't stop her. It never did. And the Dearg Due rises when the air turns heavy, when the night feels too still, when the scent of iron drifts through the hedgerows. She rises not because she is summoned, but because hunger is a kind of gravity, inevitable, ancient and cruel. The body is the same as it ever was, pale, beautiful, haunting. Her eyes burn faintly beneath the soil, her breath cold enough to frost the grass, and her fingers sharp enough to tear through the skin of the world. And she remembers everything. The betrayal, the bruises, the silence, the way the earth tried to hold her and failed. And she remembers the husband's face, not as a man but as a shape of cruelty, a symbol of every wound inflicted by those who believed ownership was love. His bones are dust now, scattered by centuries, but she still feels that in the air. In the way men look at women who walk alone. In the way power disguises itself as affection. And that's what keeps her rising. Not vengeance, but recognition. And each time she wakes, the world has changed its clothes, but not its nature. The villages have new names, the churches new roofs, the people new fears, but the hunger beneath it all is the same. And she walks through fields where electric lights hum instead of lanterns, where cars pass instead of carts, and the air still trembles when she moves. Dogs whine, birds fall silent, and the soil seems to exhale. Sometimes she is seen, a pale figure at the edge of headlights, a reflection in a window that should only show the night. A woman standing beneath a hawthorn tree that no longer grows. Those who see her do not die immediately. They dream first. They dream of water thick with blood, of hands reaching from the earth, of a voice whispering in Irish so old it sounds like stone breaking. And then they awake with the taste of iron in their mouths. And then they'll begin to fade. The Revenant doesn't kill for pleasure. She kills because hunger is the only language left for her. And each life she takes is a translation, a way of reminding the living what betrayal costs. And when she feeds, the air itself seems to recoil. The grass blackens, the wind stops, and the world holds its breath again until she's gone. But she always returns to the hawthorn, because even monsters need a home. And the tree roots have grown around her grave like veins, and the soil above it slick with mineral and memory. And those who wander too close hear a sound, not a cry or a voice, but a slow, rhythmic heartbeat, deep and patient like the earth itself. And if they stay long enough, they will see her rise with the slow grace of something inevitable. She stands beneath the hawthorn, the wind moving around her like a shroud, and she looks towards Waterford, toward the lights, toward the living. She does not speak, she simply begins to walk, and the world bends around her, trying to remember what it once feared. For the Dearg Due is not gone. She never was. She is still that hunger beneath the soil, that silence after cruelty, that echo that follows every act of betrayal. And somewhere beneath the hawthorn tree, the earth still breathes, because the grave that holds her is not a prison. It's a doorway, and it is always open. And so, wayward souls, as you step away from this tale of a hunger that never dies, keep those lanterns lit. And if you enjoyed today's descent into Irish Revenant lore, remember to like, share, subscribe, follow. It helps keeps the lanterns burning and the stories rising. Until next time,